For over a century, the United States and Venezuela were partners, bound by oil and geography. Today, that relationship has collapsed into crisis. How did two nations, once so connected, reach this breaking point? To understand the present, we must look to the past. The story begins in the early 20th century. Diplomatic ties were established, but the real connection was found deep underground. As the world's appetite for energy grew, Venezuela's vast oil reserves became strategically vital. For decades, American companies helped develop Venezuela's oil fields, and in return, a steady stream of crude flowed north. This economic partnership defined the relationship. Venezuela became a cornerstone of U.S. energy security, a stable supplier in a volatile world. During the Cold War, this energy alliance took on new importance. Venezuela was seen as a reliable democratic partner in a region often marked by instability. The two countries were aligned against common threats, and their relationship deepened. Oil wasn't just a commodity, it was a tool of geopolitics. Billions of dollars in oil revenue transformed Venezuela, funding massive infrastructure projects and social programs. For a time, it was one of Latin America's wealthiest nations, and its ties with Washington seemed unbreakable. But in 1999, the ground shifted. Hugo Chavez, a charismatic populist, was elected president. He promised a Bolivarian revolution, aiming to empower the poor and challenge the existing order. His government nationalized key industries, including parts of the oil sector, and took an increasingly confrontational stance toward the United States, which he called an imperialist power. The old partnership began to fray as ideologies clashed. Anti-American rhetoric became a staple of his government, and the once close ties were replaced by suspicion and hostility. When Chavez died in 2013, his hand-picked successor, Nicolas Maduro, took power. But Maduro inherited a country on the brink. Plummeting oil prices, combined with years of economic mismanagement, triggered a catastrophic collapse. Hyperinflation soared. Shortages of food and medicine became rampant, and the nation's infrastructure crumbled. Millions of Venezuelans fled the country, creating one of the largest migration crises in the world. The government responded to growing unrest with measures that critics called authoritarian, leading to a deep political and governance crisis. This internal turmoil set the stage for a new phase of conflict with Washington. In 2019, the United States and dozens of other countries declared Maduro's presidency illegitimate. Recognizing opposition leader Juan Guaidó as the interim president, in response, Maduro's government broke off diplomatic relations entirely. The U.S. imposed sweeping economic sanctions targeting Venezuela's crucial oil industry, government officials, and financial institutions. The goal was to pressure Maduro to step down, but the sanctions also deepened the country's economic misery, creating a bitter debate over their humanitarian impact. Despite the diplomatic freeze, back-channel talks began. The world's shifting energy needs, especially after global disruptions, brought oil back into focus. The U.S. intermittently eased some oil sanctions in exchange for promises of fairer elections and political reforms. These negotiations were a delicate dance of pressure and diplomacy. Washington would grant temporary licenses allowing some oil trade, then threaten to reimpose them if conditions weren't met. It was a cycle of cautious engagement and renewed tension. With the fate of Venezuela's primary industry hanging in the balance, the issue of elections remained a central point of contention. The Maduro government held presidential elections that major international observers and opposition groups deemed unfair. They pointed to the disqualification of leading opposition candidates and a crackdown on dissent. The government, meanwhile, accused its opponents and the United States of trying to sabotage the democratic process. The disputed results only deepened the country's political polarization and left its leadership's legitimacy contested on the world stage. Then, according to major news outlets, the situation took a dramatic turn. In early 2026, reports emerged of a covert U.S. operation aimed at key figures within the Venezuelan government. Official statements from Washington described it as a targeted action against individuals linked to international criminal networks. In Caracas, officials condemned it as an act of aggression and a violation of sovereignty. Emergency measures were declared and the border was sealed. The global reaction was swift and divided, with some nations calling for restraint while others supported the U.S. action. The long-simmering conflict had reportedly escalated into a direct confrontation. So, what happens next? The future of the US-Venezuela relationship hinges on several critical paths. One path involves a tightening of sanctions, further isolating Venezuela's economy, but potentially worsening the humanitarian crisis. Another involves a return to negotiations, where sanctions relief is exchanged for concrete democratic guarantees and free elections. The outcome will have a profound impact, not only on the Venezuelan people, but also on regional stability and global energy markets. The world is watching to see if diplomacy can prevail over conflict. The relationship between the United States and Venezuela is a complex story of shared interests, clashing ideologies, and immense consequences. It serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly alliances can fracture and how deeply intertwined the fates of nations can be. As one historian famously said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." The echoes of the past century are now shaping the uncertain future. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into modern history.